Movement feels good. It reassures you that something is happening. You wake up early, you stay busy, you fill the day with effort. At the end of it, you're tired, and tired feels earned. That feeling is powerful, because effort gives feedback immediately. You can feel movement in your body. You can see activity on your calendar. Progress doesn't work that way. Progress is quiet. It rarely announces itself early. This is where confusion begins, because the mind looks for signals. It wants proof that time wasn't wasted. Movement provides that proof. Progress often doesn't. Most systems reward activity. Jobs reward hours. Platforms reward posting. Careers reward visibility. Activity gets acknowledged. Results take time. So people learn to optimize for what responds. They move. Movement reduces anxiety, even when it doesn't change outcomes. Doing something feels better than sitting with uncertainty. Busyness feels safer than waiting. And safety feels like progress. This is why motion becomes addictive, not because people are shallow, but because motion is responsive. Send an email, something happens. Apply for a job, someone replies. Feedback arrives quickly. Progress doesn't give that feedback. It accumulates silently. Often, it looks like nothing. No reaction, no confirmation, no applause. So people keep moving. They adjust, they switch, they restart. Restarting feels productive. New environments reset expectations. A new role, a new plan, a new beginning. Beginnings are energizing. They make movement feel meaningful. But beginnings don't guarantee direction. They only guarantee motion. This is why people can stay busy for years without getting closer to anything. They're moving, just not accumulating. Movement consumes energy. Progress conserves it. One feels active, the other feels slow. So the world trains people to move, to stay visible, to stay occupied, to stay responsive. Very few systems reward stillness or patience. That doesn't mean movement is wrong. It means it's easy to mistake. When movement becomes the goal, direction stops being questioned. Speed replaces clarity. People don't ask where they're going. They ask how fast they can move. That's the illusion. Movement feels productive, even when nothing is changing underneath. Understanding this doesn't slow you down. It changes what you pay attention to. Because once motion and progress are separated, busyness loses its authority, and direction becomes visible. Before this continues, if you felt seen instead of sold to, that's the entire point of Relentless Wealth. Like the video, subscribe. We're just getting started. When movement stops producing results, people rarely stop moving. They change direction. A new role, a new company, a new environment. On the surface, it looks like progress, new title, new responsibilities, sometimes even more pay. But structure doesn't change just because scenery does, and position isn't altered by motion alone. This is where job hopping becomes misleading, because it feels decisive. Leaving something feels like movement. Starting something new feels like momentum. Momentum, however, isn't leverage. It's energy. Leverage changes outcomes without proportional effort. Movement doesn't. Movement just resets the effort cycle. Many people mistake resets for upgrades. A fresh start feels lighter than staying in place. But resets also erase accumulation. Tenure restarts, trust resets, compounding starts over. Nothing carries forward automatically. Only activity does. This is why someone can move frequently and still feel stuck. They're restarting, not repositioning. Repositioning changes how effort converts to outcome. Restarting only changes where effort is applied. Same input, same structure. Income might adjust slightly, stress might feel different, but dependency stays intact. Effort is still required for everything to continue. This creates a strange loop. The more movement happens, the less progress is felt, because motion consumes time, and time is the only thing that allows accumulation. Job hopping often comes from clarity. People sense something isn't working. That instinct isn't wrong. The mistake is assuming movement alone fixes it. New roles create new learning curves, new expectations, new politics, new proving periods. All of that delays compounding. Not because compounding is impossible, but because it requires continuity. Continuity is boring. It doesn't feel productive early. That's why movement feels smarter. It creates visible change. But visible change isn't structural change. It's cosmetic. The position stays the same. This is why people can spend years advancing without ever increasing leverage. They're changing locations, not changing mechanics. And because the movement looks intentional, it rarely gets questioned. Busyness provides cover. From the outside, it looks like ambition. From the inside, it feels exhausting. Nothing accumulates. Everything resets. That's when frustration deepens, not because effort disappeared, but because effort stopped converting. This is the trap. Movement feels like progress until time reveals it isn't. Most content talks at you. This one sits with you. If that difference stood out, if this felt real instead of loud, like the video, subscribe. This channel is built for people who notice patterns. One of the reasons movement is so misleading is that it feels cumulative. You did something yesterday. You did something today. It feels like you're stacking effort. But most activity doesn't stack. It resets. Effort tied to activity expires quickly. When the day ends, the value of that effort mostly ends with it. Tomorrow requires the same input just to maintain position. Nothing carries forward automatically. This is why busyness is deceptive. It consumes energy without creating momentum. Momentum feels like something building, but building requires persistence, not repetition. Repetition looks productive because it fills time. Persistence changes structure. Most activity is repetitive. Emails need to be sent again. Meetings need to be attended again. Tasks reappear every morning. The system resets itself daily. So does the reward. This is why effort feels endless. It never accumulates into relief. Compounding requires continuity. Something must remain after effort stops. If the result disappears when you step away, it isn't compounding. It's maintenance. Maintenance feels responsible. But maintenance doesn't create distance between effort and outcome. It keeps them tightly linked. This is where people get trapped. They increase activity hoping volume will substitute for structure. It doesn't. Volume only increases fatigue. Compounding isn't dramatic. It doesn't respond to intensity. It responds to continuity inside the same structure. That continuity is uncomfortable. It feels slow. It feels unresponsive. There's no daily confirmation that it's working. No immediate feedback loop. That absence of feedback is why people abandon compounding paths early. They mistake silence for failure. So they return to activity, because activity responds. This cycle repeats quietly. People move constantly while nothing accumulates. Years pass. Effort is spent. Fatigue increases. Progress doesn't. This isn't a discipline problem. It's a structural one. Activity without persistence cannot compound, no matter how intense it feels. Progress requires something to stay in place long enough for time to work on it. Movement disrupts that process. It replaces continuity with novelty. Novelty feels like progress, but novelty resets the clock. This is why scattered motion creates exhaustion instead of leverage. Nothing is allowed to age. And without aging, nothing compounds. Once this is seen clearly, busyness loses its appeal. Not because effort is bad, but because effort without accumulation is costly. Movement feels productive. Progress feels quiet. Confusing the two is what keeps people running in place. If this feels familiar, if you've felt this pressure but never had words for it, this channel isn't here to motivate you. It's here to help you see clearly. If that resonates, like the video. Subscribe. More clarity is coming. Once movement and progress are separated, the pressure to stay busy starts to fade. Not because effort stops mattering, but because effort stops being misused. Movement answers anxiety. Direction answers outcomes. Speed feels productive because it creates sensation. Faster days, full schedules, constant motion. Direction feels different. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand urgency. Direction quietly filters effort. It decides what compounds and what expires. This is why clarity feels slower than intensity. Clarity removes noise. When direction is clear, movement becomes selective. Not everything deserves energy. That selectivity feels uncomfortable at first. Doing less feels risky in a world that rewards motion. But doing everything is what keeps people stuck. Progress doesn't come from speed. It comes from alignment. Alignment lets time work uninterrupted. Speed interrupts that process. This is why some people appear calm while others stay frantic. Not because they care less, but because they're not chasing feedback. Feedback belongs to movement. Outcomes belong to direction. Once direction is clear, busyness loses authority. Being occupied stops feeling productive. Not everything that fills time moves you forward. This isn't an argument against action. It's an argument for intention. When direction is missing, movement becomes a distraction. When direction is present, movement becomes leverage. The difference isn't effort. It's focus. Most people don't need to move faster. They need to stop moving blindly. Clarity doesn't rush you. It anchors you. And once anchored, time stops slipping through activity. It starts accumulating into progress. That's the shift. Not more motion, not more intensity, just a clear direction that allows effort to finally stack. If this helped you separate movement from progress, if this gave clarity instead of urgency, like the video, subscribe, turn on notifications. More perspective is coming.